Hello and welcome to Dateline New Haven. What a beautiful day it is out in New Haven today, folks. We've had a lot to complain about the weather. Today we're going to rejoice in it. I'm your host, Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the headlines on the stories that make New Haven tick. Marcus Paca is on a quest to make New Haven tick. He's seeking the Democratic Party's nomination for mayor. And he's here in the WNHH studio to talk about that. Good morning, Marcus Paca.
Good morning, Paul. How are you?
Good. And welcome, Marcus Paca, to the WNHH newsroom.
Thank
Nice
you.
to have you
It's
here.
good to be here.
So, Marcus Paca, you're seeking the Democratic nomination for mayor.
Absolutely.
It's an odd number year, which means that it's a year that we elect our mayor and alders in New Haven.
That is correct.
You are a former alder yourself, so you know that schedule.
Absolutely.
And so the Democratic Party, which has the most registrants by far in New Haven, has its primary September 12th.
That is correct.
And then this summer, about 2 months before that, they have a convention, the party meetings where they pick a candidate. So if whoever gets the nomination goes on the ballot in September 12th, so the Democratic Party primary. And then we were talking before this, you reminded me that if 1/3 of the 60 delegates support someone else, such as yourself, then you get on the ballot.
That is correct.
And if not, then we go into this short period
Very short period.
in which if you don't get the nomination, you run against an incumbent, Tony Harp, who announced yesterday, it's announced on Friday, it's running for election officially, although she already said she was running. You then have only a week and a half, you told me.
That is correct.
To
I
get
believe it's less than
4,500
2 weeks.
signatures from registered Democratic voters, which means you need a lot more signatures because some end up being knocked off.
Absolutely. I need an army out there.
Wow.
So anyone interested in joining Marcus with Paca, please go to my website and sign up.
So you're ready. You're going to go to this
Absolutely.
convention. You've been running. You've been around town for months now.
Absolutely.
You got a website up. Got a lot of details on it.
Mhm.
You're ready to run. You're going to go to this convention, get the support that you can get, and then if you don't get 1/3, you're going to go get on the ballot.
That is correct.
So Marcus Paca, tell our listeners who might not know you who you are and why you're running for mayor.
Sure. Well, my name is Marcus Paca, and I'm running to become the next mayor of the city of New Haven. And the reason why I'm running is because I feel New Haven currently is lacking a strategic vision. Too many people in New Haven are hurting. Too many folks out there can't afford to stay here anymore or live here or pay taxes here because our finances are out of whack. Too many of our students are not receiving the proper education so they can go on into successful post-secondary career opportunities. Too many of our communities have not been developed properly. The proper emphasis hasn't been placed on local community development, i.e. the Whaley Avenue corridor, the Dixwell Avenue corridor, the Grand Avenue corridor. I think there needs to be more of a focus on those places, as well as a greater focus on strategic leadership. And when I say strategic leadership, I mean bringing together the folks that make our city run every day, including our robust nonprofit communities, including our small businesses, including our residents, our seniors, and bringing these folks together so we can come up with a plan that's going to progress New Haven forward in a positive way.
Marcus, you're 39, am I right about that?
That is correct.
You grew up in New Haven,
Grew up in New
New
Haven.
Hallville neighborhood.
Sure.
And tell me a little bit about who you are and why you feel, I guess you've been in public service for years.
Absolutely.
You were an alder, you were former labor relations director for the city, you worked on campaigns. What drives you to public service and what do you feel are your strengths that you could bring to being the mayor of the city?
Well, I'm a humanist. I love people. I love engaging people. I love providing services to people in need. And those are my primary drivers and the main reasons why I want to become mayor. I have a passion for New Haven. I have a passion for its people, and I want to see it succeed in an effective way. Over the past several years, we have not seen that. We haven't seen the proper priorities placed in the forefront of our minds. We haven't seen the proper economic development or fiscal responsibility happen in New Haven that we need in order to stimulate growth. What I want to do, and the reason why I'm running, is because New Haven needs a fresh, new, energetic vision for the future. I have the courage, I have the commitment and knowledge to turn our current challenges into next generational opportunities, and I have very specific plans on how I'm going to do so on my website.
Okay, what is that website?
www.marcuspaca2017.com.
Right, so Marcus Paca, you're running for mayor, and you're running for mayor at a time when New Haven, like many local governments and state governments, is facing some tough fiscal pressures. Not as bad as Hartford, As you read yesterday, the governor, despite a $5 billion projected 2-year deficit at the state, the governor wants to increase by $50 million. The money it gives the city of Hartford, without $40 million of those dollars, Hartford says it's going to go bankrupt. So we're not Hartford.
No, we are not Hartford.
And Bridgeport needed $30 million. It was $30 million in the hole last year.
Right, but Paul, we're on our way.
Well, we have no rainy day fund, and we have a budget that's been proposed for next year.
Well,
Fiscal year starts July 1st. That assumes the $31 million in new state aid is going to come to the city. Do you think that money's coming?
No, I don't.
Why is that?
And the reason why it's not coming is because the state is not only looking at a $2 billion plus budget deficit this year, they're looking at an over $5 billion budget deficit over the next 2 years. I think it's irresponsible for this administration and this mayor to raise our city budget by 6% or $30+ million this year in a year that she knows that the state is looking at that financial outlook. I think it is a slap in the face to our taxpayers, many of whom cannot afford these high taxes. Many of our people were already taxed through the home reevaluation fourth quarter last year, and now they're screaming in the streets. I was talking to an elderly gentle lady in East Rock a couple of weeks ago, and she was telling me how her family owned her home in East Rock for over 60 years. Her house has been paid off for 40 years, and now she cannot afford to stay in her home because her taxes are so high.
And John DeStefano, when he was a mayor, dealt with that too. Part of the problem is values in East Rock are going up so much faster than the rest of the city.
Well, Paul, let's be fair. We're not talking about John DeStefano here. We're talking about Tony.
No, I'm not criticizing DeStefano. Okay. I'm saying this has been something New Haven's been dealing with for every time there's a reevaluation. So East Rock's, the values go up. So when East Rock, if you go revenue neutral, if you're not raising taxes, that means that parts of town where property values go up get higher taxes, and places where they go down get lower.
Well,
like Beaver Hills, the taxes go down. East Rock goes up. No, it's tough. It's a real problem you're identifying.
I'm not saying
people in East Rock, people in East Rock who aren't renting to Yaleys, who were there before it got to be a yuppie neighborhood. Mm-hmm. It is very hard for them to stay there. What is the solution to that? Because the values go up because of Yale's expansion.
Listen, it's about fiscal responsibility in general. What I'm saying is that we all know that the revaluations of homes in New Haven are cyclical. They come along. I'm talking about more about the communication of it. How is it communicated?
Well, you're also saying that
residents?
Taxes are too high, period.
Taxes are too high because we have a lot of wasteful spending in city government. We have too many non-essential contracts out there. We have an extremely litigious corporation council that is costing the city millions and millions of dollars a year. We have police and fire overtime that are out of control. And we have a mayor that continues to raise the budget instead of budget tightening. So let me give you an example, Paul. Let's say your wife lost her job, okay? Does that mean that you would go out and plan a $10,000 vacation the next month?
No.
Okay, so if that's the case, then why would this administration, knowing that the budget crunch is coming down, knowing that there's going to be financial difficulties in New Haven across the board, why would they raise the spending on the city of New Haven by 6%? I mean, these are the types of questions we have to start asking, and to me, it speaks directly towards priorities. What are the priorities of New Haven? Where do we want to go from here? Do we want somebody that understands budgeting and spending cuts, or do we want an appropriator? Because let's be honest here, Mayor Hart is an appropriator. She's not a budgeter. Okay, when you're used to giving away money, it's hard to understand and realize that you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. That someone's not going to eat or get a service because you're taking money from somewhere else. So what I want to do is I want to look at all of the city departments. I want to implement a cost savings plan for every single department, including the Board of Education, and encourage folks to hold the line, to use attrition, to implement a hiring freeze, to make sure that we have the proper stopgaps in place so the city of New Haven and our investors know that we're willing to make the hard decisions that are necessary right now in order to give us a more productive future.
And you're listening to Marcus Paca, who's seeking the Democratic nomination for mayor in the city of New Haven. He's here with us today at Dateline New Haven at WNHH Radio, your home for community radio at 103.5 FM, live streamed at newhavenindependent.org. So, Marcus, you brought up some specifics about increases in spending.
Mhm.
It is true that there are lawsuits that are now costing us in the millions of dollars, which in fact is real money. Beyond lawsuits,
Mhm.
so you said there should be a hiring freeze. You also said we have too much overtime on police and fire. If we don't hire more cops and firefighters, how do we keep those overtime costs down, given our contractual obligations in the fire department to have minimum staffing and giving public safety needs?
Sure. And as a former labor director, I understand those needs completely. And I also understand the need to have a full-time labor director. I understand the importance of having open communication. Too many of our city-side unions do not have contracts right now. And the reason why they don't have contracts, the reason why they're demoralized, the reason why there's so many issues in the city departments is because they don't feel respected. I think it's important as a leader, as a mayor, to ensure that the people that you take care of first are the people that work for you. Okay? While the mayor is out supporting other union initiatives, our city side union folks are struggling. They don't have the proper guidance. They don't have the proper insight into the mayor's office, and they're not receiving anything but contract proposals that are not indicative of the work that they perform for us every day.
So, can I bring you back a little bit to where are the cuts going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
If we want to cut overtime in police and fire, we need to hire more cops and firefighters. That saves us money over time. Would you agree with that?
I agree with that, but I don't want to get into a lot of specifics because we don't have a lot of time right now. But what I do want to talk about is things like domestic and international travel of city staff, things that we have direct control over. We have direct control over the mayor's 24/7 mayoral chauffeuring.
Would you have a chauffeur?
One thing I listen.
So you can
Paul,
drive yourself.
Listen, Paul. I'm 39 years old. The mayor is 70 years old. I do not feel scared or afraid to walk in my own communities. As a matter of fact, I think a lot of folks look at that potentially as a sign of disrespect. What I want to tell the residents of New Haven is that I'm approachable. What I want the residents of New Haven to know is that I'm communicating.
So you're not going to have a chauffeur?
I am not going to have a chauffeur.
So that's one job. I mean, that's three jobs. Yeah, that's a position you're going to eliminate.
It's a $250,000 a year position that I'm
Okay.
eliminating. Yes. So that's $250,000 in overtime and other fees and benefits that are costing the city of New Haven every single year. And it sends off the wrong optic, in my opinion, to New Haveners. What we're also going to do is we're going to use attrition wisely. We're going to reduce expenditures, and we're going to put the money back where our priorities and values lie. So in times of budget tightening, what you always see first off is a reduction in senior services. That's one of the first places that goes. And as I crisscross New Haven, talking to constituents, talking to seniors, going to the high schools, talking to our youth, talking to clergy and nonprofits, what I'm hearing is that they are very, very scared right now. That the people that are in most need in our communities right now are not going to get the essential services that they need in order to sustain themselves and their families.
I think it's fair to ask a candidate now. It's not fair that a candidate is supposed to know everything about how the inside works if you're not on the inside. So you're not supposed to know where every cut would be made. It's fair to stand on the outside and say people are concerned about this, that we shouldn't be spending more money when we have this fiscal crisis, and anyone can see that the state's not going to be coming through with $31 million. I do think it's fair to ask you, in addition to the chauffeur, where you might cut. Just some examples, not the whole $31 million. You know, I don't think you're not inside. You're not supposed to know where all $31 million is. You see that plan for attrition. You'd be careful. You would hire more cops. In addition to that $250,000 from, could you give us some examples of something you would cut?
Well, again.
Oh, international travel.
Well, yeah, exactly.
That travel, you want to do travel. But some people argue that travel helps you get ideas to run.
Well, if this administration can show where those good ideas have gone, then I'll be more than happy to.
So travel, chauffeur. You mentioned lawsuits. I guess you're arguing that you wouldn't get into unnecessary lawsuits. So that's correct. Some money. Where else would you cut?
Well, first of all, when you look at how our bond rating was dropped last year by Moody's, they dropped it specifically because of a heavy reliance on debt restructuring. Okay, I would look at the finances of our city very, very tightly. I would put in people that understand that this is not monopoly money that we're playing with, that we just can't expect the state to bail us out of every fiscal problem, or even Yale University to bail us out. What we have to do is be fiscally responsible on ourselves. We have to hold ourselves accountable to a higher standard so that we can pass on those savings to taxpayers. So again, we don't necessarily have a huge revenue problem. We have a huge spending problem. So when I talk
Like,
about,
so what other, like, what kind of big spending items
well,
are we wasting money on? You
well,
mentioned
look at the
lawsuits, you mentioned,
for
um,
instance, decentralization of city services. Right now, we have a lot of empire building in City Hall. And that's because of a lack of leadership. Folks feel like they can go out and duplicate services, duplicate positions. The example I like to use is the food policy director. We have 6 or 7 able-bodied nonprofits in New Haven that focus on food policy, yet this mayor saw fit to hire a six-figure policy person along with an assistant, and now I hear that person is out on medical leave.
so that's
So
another position you would eliminate.
I didn't say I would eliminate it, but I said that I would look to reduce duplicative programs, personnel, and services. But that comes directly to mind. When you're
Why
looking,
wouldn't you eliminate it? If we got everyone doing that in the community, why do we need a food policy director and assistant? The argument they give is that someone needs to coordinate the work done in the community to have people eating more healthfully and that they go out and get grant money for it.
well, does the city hall need to be coordinating every single initiative or project in New Haven? I don't think so. I think again that we can provide support. We can provide guidance to these nonprofits so that they can provide the services to our community members in a more effective way. And again, that's part of the whole empire building mantra and structure that this administration has cultivated over the past 4 years. I'm going to end that immediately. Ethical and accountable contracting is another major pet peeve of mine. There needs to be a solid procurement process in place. People need to follow those procurement processes, and they haven't been followed.
So do you have examples of contracts that were done wrong?
I'm not going to go into any specifics, but what I will do is say that we need to be looking at many of our non-essential contractors. We need to be looking at contractors.
What are non-essential contractors?
Let me finish. Contractors that write grants for the city, okay? Contractors that are providing certain legal services, and certain financial consulting, educational consulting. We need to look at all of those things in a meaningful way and make sure that they're not, number one, duplicative in nature, costing the city more than it should be, and that it's actually going through a procurement process. So we're getting the lowest bid possible for the taxpayers' dollars.
Okay, so you said one way we might be able to cut money is to review how we're giving out contracts, and you gave examples: grant writing, legal advice, and educational consultants.
Yeah.
And that either we don't need those contracts or we can contract them better and save money.
Sure. And in addition to that, Paul, we need to look at grant compliance and prevention laws. I mean, when I was going through the city budget and I was attending the board hearings on it, they were talking about the LoSIP reimbursements.
Let's tell people what LoSIP is.
LoSIP is state reimbursement for infrastructure improvements.
Right, that
to
rolls
the
from
cities.
year to year.
That rolls
And
from year
then
to
we
year.
were told that we
That-
used to give them that money at a certain time. Now we're not going to give it to you at that certain time.
Well, let's say it for what it was. The administration dropped the ball and didn't.
They
fill
got
out
in the
the form.
paperwork late.
Got in the paperwork late. Now, if I knew that I was going to get $1 million on December 15th, and they said that application was due by December 14th, then I would make sure the application was filled out. And this, again, is indicative of the type of administration that we have to deal with. So what I'm offering is a new way of doing business. I'm offering a leadership that's going to be forward-thinking, that's not always going to be giving excuses, that's going to be honest, that's going to be communicative, that's going to be truly collaborative. And I want to take that those efforts and make New Haven a better place to live, work, learn, and play.
And you're listening to New Haven's source for local community radio, WNHH, your home for community radio at 103.5 FM, live streaming at newhavenindependent.org. We're chatting today with Marcus Paca. He's running for mayor, seeking the Democratic nomination. We are in a mayoral election year. Marcus Paca, you had said that part of your platform deals with homelessness and housing,
Sure.
which touches on two big issues in New Haven we hear about pretty much every day. One of those issues is affordable housing, that people feel that we are, like a lot of university cities, like a lot of cities sort of outside big metro areas like New York or Washington or Boston, the market has picked up for market rate housing. So we no longer have to give developers incentives, financial incentives to build, let's say, the Novella in Chapel Hill. The 4 or 5 separate projects on that one block of Crown and College, which is amazing, from just like a few dives and empty lots, they're becoming all this luxury housing on every corner of the block. The 3 projects right near Worcester Square and the Nice Square that are being proposed. Some concerns you hear about in the Independent are that people who don't make a lot of money won't be able to afford to live here. The answer often comes back that gentrification involves converting existing affordable housing, production housing, and that these projects, in fact, are building on empty lots. So that does create a bigger tax base. Do you feel that the current rise in market rate housing is eliminating affordable housing? It is a good thing for a city. How would you, as mayor, address that issue?
Well, first let me say that affordable housing is an issue that I've been hearing as a concern of residents for some time now. And I strongly believe that we need to have a proper mix and balance of housing in New Haven.
We're kind of getting to be sort of wealthy and poor. There's
Well,
not a lot in between.
Well, yeah, the gap between the haves and the have-nots is growing every day. And that's why I asked the question again, what type of city do we want to become? And if it's the will of the citizens that we become just a completely affluent town, and we're not going to be taking care of the people that are less fortunate in our community, then folks need to stand up and say that. And that's all I ask, is that folks are vocal about what they believe.
But I'm assuming that's not your vision.
That is not my vision. My vision is to have a solid mix of affordable housing and upper scale housing for the folks that can afford it. We want to be a provider and have a vision for all New Haveners, not just the poor, not just the middle class.
So what would you specifically do as mayor to promote affordable housing?
Well, what I would do is I would try to identify developers that have more of a stake in affordable housing units. And I wouldn't be spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on them as well. We need to be very fiscally conscious about who we bring into our city, that they express the same morals and values that we do as a community, and that we have the proper tools and finances to
Like,
see
for
those
instance, you're
projects move
negotiating
forward.
with Randy Salvatore's building in the Hill on the 11.5 acre spot there.
Yeah.
The city insisted he do 30% affordable housing there, and then it helped get money from the state or in the process to try to make that possible. Is that how you would operate? Is there a different way you would operate to try to get at those goals?
Listen, I don't disagree with that strategy. As a matter of fact, I think in certain instances it's actually very successful. But what I also don't want to do is I don't want to push good developers away because we need to basically put things on them. I would rather have developers come to us that want to do affordable housing. Developers that
So
have
rather
in
than
mind-
push someone who's doing market rate housing to include affordable housing, make sure you're recruiting affordable housing developers to do affordable housing.
Pretty much yes.
That's an interesting idea. All right, listen to Marcus Paca, candidate for mayor in New Haven. Marcus, you also talked about homelessness. There's been a campaign in New Haven for a bunch of years with all the not-for-profits as part of a statewide end homelessness campaign. They claim they've ended, what's the word they use? Because there are always homeless people, but they said they've ended chronic homelessness for veterans, meaning that on day-to-day you might find someone, but anyone who is for a while homeless will find a place for them for good. They're getting people into more transitional housing, supportive housing, which is a term ARF, having services right on site and people following up with you, help you get jobs and get more stable. We have cut it down a lot, but there's still homelessness.
And you're right, Paul, but even though we've cut it down by a lot, New Haven County still has the highest percentage of homeless families in the state of Connecticut. Okay, so we need to know that fact. Secondly, through my research, I've identified that the estimate in 2014 for homeless people was about 566, almost 600 people, with 100 of them being chronic. What we need to do as a city, in my opinion, is focus on the complete eradication of homelessness. That's why, as mayor, I'm going to prioritize creating a New Haven Housing Trust Fund that will be a funding collaborative between philanthropists, investors, major donors, city government officials, and the purpose of that fund will be to assist local housing and supportive service organizations to service people in need, provide transitional housing for those who require independent living, and develop new affordable homes.
So you'd raise money to back supportive housing, transitional housing.
I would do that, but I also would have a plan to create inclusionary zoning and taxing incentives and credits for people that want to build housing communities that would house these people on
So
a
let me
permanent
take a
basis.
step back to understand what I think you mean there. So in other words, you would combine trying to create a trust fund, a funding trust that raises money to support this kind of housing, with looking at zoning, because you talked about inclusionary zoning. So what you mean is zoning that lets you build more in a certain area so it doesn't cost as much, so that you can get more units in and keep the price down. What does that
Well,
mean?
it means that I want to enable developers that are focused on this type of initiative and development to develop the affordable and eco-friendly housing that's going to be paramount to eradicating homelessness.
Oh, I meant, is it the
So,
zoning that gets in the way of that?
well,
Like in the
potentially,
suburbs, we have
I mean,
single acre zoning or that kind of thing.
right.
That's exclusionary zoning.
Well, let me give you an example. Like in New York, the affordable housing crisis is paramount. Folks are getting pushed further and further from the city. Folks can't afford to live there. The same thing's happening here in New Haven. So what they're doing in New York is they're creating micro housing communities, and they're getting special zoning permits to build.
Yeah, Eric Johnson talked about that when he did LCI, some of those lots in New Hallville. They wanted to do micro zoning, which, if I understand it correctly, micro housing. That's when you have like a really tiny house,
Really tiny house.
on a lot, but you change the zoning. So you think there's a zoning that you're allowed to put a house on a lot that used to be too small to support a house, but then you own it. You live in like 900 square feet.
Exactly.
And
look at this. Let's look at the humanistic part of this, because when a homeless person or a person in general has a place to call their own, they're more likely to get substance abuse treatment. They're more likely to keep a steady job. They're more likely to be able to take care of their families and be productive parts of communities. So to me, it's not just about some kind of political thing. This is about people. And I actually attend a weekly meeting at one of the churches on the Green, the Trinity Church, every Tuesday at 12 o'clock. I'm actually going right after this, so anyone who wants to see me, come down to the Trinity Church on the Green for the homelessness meeting that they have there that's ran by Brother James. And what he does is he brings together homeless men and women and families to come together and talk out their issues, to get spiritual counseling, to get guidance for housing from great organizations like the Columbus House and other organizations to help folks repopulate into or integrate back into society after they've been incarcerated. And these are the types of initiatives that really build communities, that really help people achieve more in their lives and therefore help our city. So for me, this is more of a labor of love, and I'm going to put a priority around homelessness once I'm there.
All right, Marcus Paca, candidate for Democratic nomination for mayor in our city of New Haven, here on Dateline New Haven, WNC's radio on 5 FM, live stream.org. Marcus Paca, tell me about a hero or a role model you've had in your life. Who was a great mayor or a politician or just a community member that inspired you?
Well, that's a good question, Paul. And, people always say politics is local and politics is personal. So I would say some of the people that I've looked up to in my life, especially here in New Haven, are my teachers. There were several teachers in my life that really sparked an interest in reading, that really sparked an interest in research, that sparked an interest in history and truth. And folks like, Mr. Robert Gibson, who was my history teacher at Hill House. People like Bert Saxon, who taught my civics class and who I participated in a mock trial with. He got me really interested in politics. But from an elected official perspective, it's a very interesting story. I had moved in, my family had moved into our first house in New Hallville on Reed Street in Butler. And we had gotten a dog, a big German Shepherd. And one night I was walking my dog around the block, and a lady screamed out and asked me who I was because she had never seen me in the neighborhood. And I told her who I was and that I had just moved down the street. And she invited me in for milk and cookies. And
what a more innocent time when you go into strangers' house for milk and cookies.
Forget it. I mean, I was 13 years old.
Wow.
I was 13 years old, but she had a good feel about her. And after walking in her house and I'm eating my milk and cookies and cake, she asked me what did I know about politics. And I said, nothing. I'm 13 years old. And she said, well, my name is Joanne Pearson, and I'm your alderman. And she set me on the path of public service. I mean, she got me involved in John Daniels' first campaign back in 88, 89, where I was knocking on doors, advocating for youth activism in our communities, better relations with the police department through the Young Adult Board of Police Commissioners. And she really sparked something in me that has stayed with me my entire life, and that is a passion for public service. And so I do this because I love New Haven, because I love my community, because I want to see it do better. And I believe that I have the courage and vision to see New Haven progress in a positive way.
Do you remember any lessons you've learned sort of in the trenches of politics on a campaign or when you were in Alder and Edgewood that taught you something new about the way a city works or how you get things done?
Sure. One of the things that I learned being a development commissioner, being an alder, being chair of the community development committee, was that you have to be a good communicator. You have to give people the respect of a conversation. And I think that's one of the things that are lacking right now with this mayor, is that she doesn't give people the respect of a conversation. I think a lot of the ills that we have in our departments didn't have to be big, drawn out problems if she would have sat down and had a conversation with folks. So what I want to bring back to City Hall is a spirit of communication. And I mean that in the truest sense of the word. I want to make sure that people feel comfortable coming to me, that they feel comfortable expressing different ideas and dissent when necessary. I would not implement, I repeat, I would not implement a loyalty pledge, which is very Trump-esque, which was very, very shocking to me and a lot of unionized employees as well as executive management employees, that a mayor would stifle communication, would stifle opinions, would stifle dissent by making folks sign a loyalty pledge. I mean, is that the type of city that we want? Is that the type of city that we deserve? I don't think it is. I don't think the vast majority of New Haveners think that's the type of city they want to live in. So when I'm out there, Paul, talking to residents, talking to different types of interest groups and constituency groups, I'm telling them that I'm going to bring more people into the political process. I'm going to reach out to the people that have felt apathetic towards politics because they don't feel like they can get involved.
You've been out talking to a lot of people, just retail politics as they call it, showing up at churches, stores, public events, at hearings. Tell me about a moment since this campaign started a few months ago that either most surprised you or most struck you, something somebody said to you or something you saw happen that said, this ties into our running for mayor, this is what our city's facing right now.
Well, I mean, the big thing happened actually late last year when it became, when through your reporting, you started talking more and more about how the mayor was focused on becoming lieutenant governor or governor, that she had actually set up a political pact 2 years before the next gubernatorial race to focus on a campaign to that end. That really pushed me and led me to believe that the mayor's commitment to our city may not be where it should be, and that New Haveners deserve someone that is going to be committed to New Haven. I'm committed 100% to New Haven. I'm committed 100% to our residents and our taxpayers. So if there was a pivotal point before or during the campaign, it was that information, it was that sentiment, and the fact that we have a leader that is not 100% in the game.
You're listening to Dateline New Haven, Marcus Paca. He's the Democratic nomination for mayor. Marcus, I was looking at your website where you list a number of your issues, a lot of your positions there. I was looking at the economics and jobs section. You talked about something called a Hire, H-I-R-E, Hire One campaign, where you're going to ask people to hire one New Havener at least a year. How would that work?
Well, that's a part of my strategy to strategically reach out to businesses and retain local talent. As you know, New Haven has a brain drain. And when I'm out there talking to especially some of our older constituents, they're telling me that their kids, or in particular, they can't see or visit their grandkids because their kids had to move out of state for job opportunities. What I want to make sure is that we have a more robust workforce development city. I want to make sure that we expand a little bit more out of education, out of medical devices and biochemistry, into maybe more professional opportunities that will attract and retain more New Haveners. So the Hire One campaign, in that thought process, in that nature, is about making sure that New Haveners have an opportunity to get jobs and stay and have an opportunity to stay here in New Haven. So I think that's a part of the mayor's job, to create that type of atmosphere and environment, whereas employers feel compelled to give back to the city that has given so much to them, while they equally give back to the city through taxes and through jobs. And I just think it's a great idea and something that I'm going to promote tremendously once I'm there.
You also talked in that section, as you did earlier in this interview, about neighborhood economic development corridors and commercial corridors. You talked about Kimberly Avenue, you talked about Grant Avenue, you talked about Whaley Avenue, Dixwell Avenue, the main commercial streets that run through our neighborhoods. You talk about how you want to do a better job building those up. Those don't have the same vibrancy as downtown. It's doing quite well. What would you do differently from the plan that has been hatched with consultants in the Harbor District for those corridors?
Well, that's a good question, and I hope you're using that term "plan" loosely, because there was already a plan that didn't require consultants during the mayor's first campaign, when her transition team put together an entire strategy on community development down the corridors. That plan went in the trash on January 2nd, 2014.
So what is that? What's in that plan, and what's in your plan?
Well, like I said, Paul, it's in the trash. But some very able-bodied people worked on developing a plan, but the mayor felt it prudent to go ahead and hire consultants for hundreds of thousands of dollars to come up with this similar plan, and none of it has been implemented. What I want to do is start putting my money where our mouths are. I want to make sure that when the mayor's office says something, that is actually done. That it's not just used for political patronage.
So tell me about some of the ideas for those corridors.
Okay, streetscaping, okay, beautification projects, creating new awnings and signs for businesses, making sure that folks have startup money to create new small businesses. These are just some of the things that we should
And
be
where would
looking
that
at.
money come from if we're looking to cut the city budget?
Well, listen. Again, it's not creating dollars. It's a reallocation of dollars.
Or could you
Okay.
access outside dollars, like there
Sure.
are state programs and that kind of thing that go through a city? There are nonprofit dollars that could be attracted. There are matching dollar programs.
I talk very, very detailed about collaborating with all types of people to bring on more economic development dollars in New Haven. But again, Paul, it's about our priorities. Where are our priorities? If the neighborhoods were a priority to the Harp administration, something would have been done by now. Okay, you just wouldn't have seen hundreds of thousands of dollars spent on consultants and nothing to show for it. So again, what I want to do is not just say that I'm going to do these things. I want to actually make them happen. That's why I stand behind every single one of my platform issues. That's why there's no proposals that I offer that really cost money. It's either a reallocation of existing dollars, or it's collaborating more effectively with outside entities like nonprofits, like philanthropists, like our business community, to bring people together, to come together on initiatives that we can all agree upon. And it's going to help everyone. It's going to help the residents. It's going to help the city. It's going to help our business community. It's going to help our education community. So we need to collaborate more and get serious about where we want to become, what we want to become as a city.
I'll give you a hypothetical.
I don't like hypotheticals.
Let's say you were the mayor of New Haven already. You don't mind that one, do you?
All right, I don't mind that.
Okay, let's say one day someone calls you up and say, "Hey, Mayor, something not so good just happened. There was this woman who got fired from the health department, and she got someone from the union to go with her into her old office. She got past the guard who had an order not to let her through, and she went in. They locked the door, and kept quiet when people came looking for him. She got back in her old computer, and she accessed the files of 500 people. Or the number's a little under the mayor. We don't know yet what the exact number is. So it's 498 and 570, I believe. People have sexually transmitted diseases, and this is from a database she was keeping with an intern for the Centers for Disease Control. And this is private information. And she accessed it. She downloaded some files. We're not sure which ones she downloaded, and she erased them. What do you do about that? How do you react to something like that?
Well, first off,
And obviously that's not hypothetical.
I mean, it's not hypothetical. We're talking about the health department data breach, and I've already been very, very vocal about my thoughts about that. As a matter of fact, I have an ad out right now addressing that very situation. First of all, I would, if I was there, I would look at the administration's role in that breach. From what I hear, is that her password was not changed, and that other people were accessing, using her password, confidential information.
Right. She had an intern who'd been working with her who still had her password. They said they didn't want to give the intern her own password.
So that's a failure of policy on the health department and our IT department.
So you would make sure the passwords are eliminated.
What I would make sure is that we have a clear technology strategy on passwords and how we deal with other confidential information. What I wouldn't do is hold that information back from the people that were hacked or the people that were stolen from, or from the public for 6 months after, like it was okay. Based upon federal HIPAA guidelines, I believe that a person is entitled to know within 6 months.
Right. So let me finish.
Within 2 months. And again, this is opening up our city to potential litigation from folks whose information was stolen. So when you have these types of incidents, Paul, you have to turn the flashlight back on yourself and make sure that you and your administration did everything that you could possibly have done to not let this happen. And what it shows is that they knew that they did something wrong and tried to cover it up. And that's the reason why they weren't forthcoming with the information. And that's a huge, huge problem. Folks should be outraged. folks should be up in arms over what happened at the health department, who now reports directly, as far as I know, to the mayor's office. From what I hear, the CSA has lost several departments, including the health
Community
department.
Services Administrator.
Excuse me, yeah, the community services administrator has lost the youth services department, has lost the health department, which are both reporting to the mayor's office. So this situation falls directly at the mayor's feet. Either there weren't proper protocols put in place to guard people's information, or they tried to cover up, or both.
I asked them, why did it take so long? Because under law is 90 days. You're supposed to tell people, they're supposed to put something on your website. Through the Freedom of Information Act, I got the memos. They claim that because I had called with a question when the incident first happened, without much information about or detail, but they answered to confirm that some kind of breach took place without details. They felt that that met the requirement for informing the public, and that the reason it took more than 90 days is they claimed that they wanted to wait till a police investigation was completed to know definitively that this breach took place before they let people know, so that they didn't get people scared unnecessarily, so that they feel the clock started ticking when the police reported that it definitely was a breach, and that was another 90 days after that.
I'm sorry, Paul. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, any reasonable person would know that that's just hogwash. Federal law is very, very clear that folks need to be notified within a certain amount of time. They took several months out of that, hoping that no one would find out. I mean, let's call it what it was. It was a cover-up, okay? And now that we have this cover-up, and now that we're open to all this potential litigation, they're scrambling to figure out a way to reverse engineer the story. What I want to do is I want to lead an administration that when we make a mistake, because we will make mistakes, no one's perfect, but when we will make a mistake, we are man and woman enough as an administration to step up, to say that we were wrong and rectify the situation. I think it does a disservice to our residents and to our taxpayers to throw the wool over their, to try to throw the wool over their eyes and just expect people to believe anything that they say. I don't believe anything that they say. At least I don't believe a lot of it unless it's actually confirmed. But what I do know is that this pattern is systemic, and that they have a long list of things that they've done in the past that are similar to this. So the pattern is clear. This tax and spend, some would call corrupt administration is to the detriment of
corrupt. You have to say that someone broke the law.
Well,
who broke the law?
What HIPAA violations is not breaking the law? Not letting these 6,500 people know that their confidential data is out there in the public. I mean,
but for personal gain, I mean, like financial gain. Corrupt.
Listen, when I get into office, trust me, there's going to be a complete audit on a lot of things. Because the things that I'm hearing, it's funny when you become a mayoral candidate. A lot of people have a lot of information about a lot of things. Now, a lot of it is, just pie in the sky. People are disgruntled or mad about something. But that little 5 or 10% is really true.
One of the great values of having campaigns and people running for office
Get to talk about it.
Is that you hear from the people who haven't been there.
Oh, absolutely.
Would you have fired the union official who escorted the woman into the office and was present while she was stealing stuff and downloading the files, and helped her carry the material to her car?
Well, I heard different. I heard that he wasn't escorting her. And I would have to get to the bottom of it. But I know who I would discipline. I would discipline the community services administrator. I would discipline the health director. And I would strongly look at the finance department and our IT department. Because they're the ones that house the technology.
How would you have spoken to the public about it? So you find out 500, this database has been compromised. Would you have given a speech? Would the health department director send a letter? Would you put it on the website? Would you have had a press conference?
Well, Paul, you tell me. I mean, because from my recollection, the health department director was stonewalling the press. So if that's the case, then obviously he was told by the mayor or her designee that don't talk to the press. Okay? So again, the problem is the leadership. The problem is the leadership. And that's why I'm running for mayor, because I want to offer an alternative to this current mayor.
Right. You can listen to Marcus Paca, who's running for mayor, seeking the Democratic nomination for mayor of our fair city. And he's here in New Haven. Dateline New Haven. And any last words, Marcus? Any points that are essential to your campaign we didn't get to today?
Well, once again, I want to thank you, Paul, for having me on your show. It's been a great experience, and I hope the residents of New Haven continue to keep an open mind as we go throughout this campaign season and ask yourself some pretty serious questions. Whether or not you feel that this city's headed in the right direction, whether or not you think that our children are being educated properly. Ask yourself whether or not we're putting a proper focus on economic development in our seniors. Ask yourself if we can do better. And if you feel that we can do better, consider joining Progress with Paca. Go to www.marcuspaca2017.com for more details. Sign up for our newsletter, volunteer, give money, and I promise you that we will take New Haven to the next level.
You have a headquarters opening this week?
Sure. We have a headquarters opening up on Grand Avenue, 132 Grand Avenue, and we will be actually having a press conference kicking off our voter registration drive this Friday. So all of you that would like to attend, please go to our website for more details. I love you all. I love New Haven. Thank you, Paul, again for this opportunity. Take care, and God bless New Haven.
And thank you so much for joining us today at Dateline New Haven. Thanks to our guest, mayoral hopeful Marcus Paca. Hope to be seeing you some more. We're going to take it out with the Afro-Semitic Experience, performing I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free, from the group CD, A Plea for Peace. Now we know what it's like to be free. We just got to remember to book our flight. Book your flight with us all day and all night long here at WNHH, New Haven's home for community radio. Do you want to cut the YouTube? I mean the Facebook Live. Mike's dead, but they still got Facebook Live.